They said Dayton Brown was just shy, that he simply didn't enjoy cameras. But what if that wasn't the case? What if his reserve was not a sign of reserve, but an announcement? Behind Robyn and Kody Brown's mansion walls, a silent war has been raging, not for fame, nor even for religion, but for liberty. In this tale, we discover how Dayton's silence was his superpower, and how it would be enough to ruin everything Kody and Robyn have sought to keep under wraps. Because sometimes silence screams louder than any confession. The Brown clan has been living under the glare of the public eye for more than a decade. All the tears, all the fights, all the uncomfortable smile, recorded by TLC cameras. But amidst all the drama, one name started to disappear from the picture: Dayton Brown, Robyn's oldest son. A quiet figure on Sister Wives earlier, Dayton's tale appeared straightforward: a doting son, brave in the face of adversity, shielded by a loving mother who revered him. But year after year, fans saw something odd. He vanished. No new images, no public sightings, no social media footprint, only rumors. On paper, the explanation was benign: Dayton needed privacy. But his friends say his vanishing wasn't merely a personal decision. It was the product of conflict. A quiet standoff between a son who needed space and parents who couldn't release him. TLC portrayed Robyn as the doting mother. Her whole persona, she had long maintained, was about guarding Dayton from the glare of publicity, from censure, from danger. And what if that guarding became controlling? Dayton was always different, reflective, a thinker, sometimes remote. His autism spectrum diagnosis was publicly revealed by Robyn herself, a fact that assisted in framing her persona as the caring, selfless mother. The public sympathized. TLC capitalized on it. Privately, however, insiders indicate things changed once Dayton entered adulthood. He needed room, autonomy, an opportunity to be more than a satellite of his parents, and that's where the tension started. Because when control and independence, one side always breaks. Tazza, the world may have forgotten Dayton until Dayton Brown unwittingly pulled back the curtain. During a relaxed live stream, during an unguarded moment, Dayton was questioned where Dayton was, and he slipped up. He mentioned Dayton had been kicked off the show for doing something bad. The internet went wild. Hours passed, and online forums were aglow, fan pages abuzz with activity, and the rumor mill going full tilt. Did Dayton cheat? Did something go down behind the scenes? Or Payton attempted to backtrack, labeling it a misunderstanding, but by that point, the damage was done. Because for longtime Browns fans, it made sense all of a sudden. Dayton hadn't been missing by happenstance. He'd opted for silence and lost everything. People close to the family called Dayton a brilliant kid, cool, strategic, and intensely loyal. But when he saw loyalty meant losing himself, he began rebelling, not by shouting, not by confrontation, but by silence. He quit interacting with TLC crews, he declined interviews, he dodged public appearances, and one by one, his sightings disappeared. Within the family, this was betrayal. To the world outside, it appeared to be peace. But to Robyn and Kody, it was rebellion. He didn't have to fight for freedom. He just stopped playing their game. Before the world even realized he was missing, Dayton was already gone. Not physically, but emotionally. He had retreated into a self-made world, refusing to belong to the family's TV empire. And that's when the actual power struggle started, not in front of the TV cameras, but within the Brown household, because while the Globe was fuming over Kody's divorces and Coyote Pass drama, another tale was developing behind closed doors, one that had the potential to destroy the entire Brown dynasty from the ground up. The remark that rattled the Brown family business, the blowback that shut Payton up, and the real reason why Dayton's uprising was never meant to come out to the public. The truth never gets away by mistake. Occasionally, it bursts when someone's finally too exhausted to keep it contained. When Dayton Brown spoke up on that TikTok live, he didn't merely make an error. He opened a door the Brown family spent years closing. His statement was straightforward: Dayton got kicked off the show for doing something bad. But to the millions who'd seen Sister Wives, it was like a clap of thunder. Unexpected, jarring, and unable to be overlooked. And in an instant, Dayton's silence became the deafening headline in Brown family annals. Because in this family, one sentence can ruin a dynasty. It came quickly. A spontaneous Q&A, fans throwing in loose questions, and Peyton, easy and smiling, responding as he always does. Then the question nobody saw coming, what happened to Dayton? Peyton paused. His face quivered, the sort of micro expression that warns you there's more behind the curtain. Then, without pause, he just said it. He was kicked off the show for something naughty. The remark lasted 2 seconds. The internet immortalized it. Clips went viral. Fans replayed it, analyzed it, slowed it down, frame by frame. And for the first time in years, Dayton's name was back on top of Sister Wives forums. Within a few hours, Robyn was said to be enraged. Kody went into control mode. And TLC's silence? Deafening. Peyton's phone was blowing up. Not from trolls or fans, but from his own family members. By morning, Peyton was in full damage control. He went live once more, his tone altered this time. On edge, cautious. I did something wrong, he declared. That was a lie. Dayton's fine. I was kidding, but fans weren't accepting excuses. The walkback sounded too rehearsed, too staged. Something about his apology didn't ring true. Coach. Behind the scenes, sources insist that the blowback Peyton received wasn't merely emotional, it was calculated. Robyn supposedly insisted that Christine speak with him, to bring him in, to plug the leak before it reached TLC's top floors. And Christine, still navigating her own PR, did what she needed to do. She told him to retract. When the Browns panic, they don't argue, they strategize. Peyton wasn't being silenced for a lie. He was being silenced for speaking the truth too soon. So, what was the something bad? Fans speculated everything. A brawl, a scandal, even trouble with the law. But our insider accounts tell a far different tale. Dayton didn't do anything illegal. He broke the story. He quit filming. He quit playing the role. TLC had assigned him shy, dependent son, in constant care of his mother. He began asserting himself, choosing without permission, in a family that survived on image management. That sort of independence was a threat. Dayton's sin was disobedience, quiet, peaceful, but refusing to comply. He didn't scream. He didn't publicly rebel. He just quit playing their game. And in the Brown family, that's not forgivable. Sometimes the biggest rebellion isn't running away. It's standing still and refusing to perform. During the pandemic, Kody's fixation on rigid household rules made each house a fortress. Dayton, now a Northern Arizona University student, wanted to have a normal college experience, study groups, friends, freedom. But, according to those in the know, that freedom came with a cost. Kody allegedly punished him for not following the family's COVID protocol. The solution? Isolation. Dayton was moved out of the main house into an RV parked just beyond the property. Alone, separate, silent. Imagine the message, you're part of this family, but you're not welcome inside it. You can stay, but only on our terms. It wasn't physical exile. It was psychological. Day. Every day, he saw the home he wasn't allowed to enter. Each evening, he saw the lights go out in the house that continued to refer to itself as a family. SGS. As time went on, Dayton was no longer spoken of at all. TLC moved the focus to the divorces, to Coyote Pass, to Kody's public collapse. But quietly, in the background, the actual break had already begun. Robyn's silence became more guarded. Kody's wrath grew stronger. And Peyton? He became the unwitting whistleblower in a narrative far larger than he could have known. Because what he'd intimated, what he'd attempted to cover up, was not a reality that could destroy the final illusion keeping the family together. That control, and not love, was what was holding them together. Dayton's quiet wasn't a passing mood, it was a pronouncement. And shortly, that silence would begin to cost Kody and Robyn embarrassment. It would begin to cost them money, reputation, and allegiance. the fiscal tension that made silence hold power, and how Dayton's silent, yacht, chia resistance pushed the Browns to confront a reality they couldn't shoot around. What if silence didn't equal avoidance, but strategy? What if the quiet one in the Brown family, the son everyone presumed was just shy, was the one really manipulating invisible strings in the background? Tonight, all of it changes, because in this session, we discover the true reason Dayton Brown ceased speaking in public, and how one cryptic message he sent destroyed Robyn's tenuous grip and left Peyton wondering everything he'd ever believed. They told him he was quiet, but they never inquired as to why. Treading on thin emotional ice for months now, the Brown family had been. Since Peyton's explosive comments about his siblings, Robyn's house went into lockdown. Some scenes were specifically not to be filmed by TLC producers. Even Janelle and Christine would not comment about the Dayton situation, but then something odd started circulating. An encrypted message on an invitation-only Facebook page once shared by the Brown children to plan family announcements. Ketlia, it was brief, nearly cryptic. Sometimes silence isn't peace, it's protection. The tweet was posted from an account thought to belong to Dayton. In a matter of minutes, it was removed, but screenshots were shared in. Fans wondered endlessly, was Dayton saying something this way without actually directing the words at Robyn? Or was this a warning for Peyton to leave private family matters alone before they escalated into something that was legal? Peyton, also in the hot seat for earlier interviews, didn't take kindly to it. In a weeks later livestream, he offered the following comment that would reignite the media firestorm. Some people think I'm attacking, but I'm just done being manipulated. You can stay silent if you want, but that silence can't hide everything forever. The audience could sense it. He wasn't addressing his mother or father anymore. This was aimed directly at Dayton. Behind the scenes, friends of the Browns said that Robyn had jumped in, telling Dayton to remain silent and not feed the narrative. But it was too late. His silence, his enigma, had now turned into a tool, one being read and manipulated. By everyone from the fans, to the family, to the tabloids, Senderbel to the tabloids. And Nosabul, then, what would happen would turn everything upside down. Because for the first time, Robyn wasn't bossing around, and Dayton's quiet began to scream louder than words. As rumors swirled, producers at TLC are said to have contacted Robyn to deal with the internet gossip ahead of the airing of the next season. Robyn, according to sources, was not interested in having Dayton involved, but citing he's private and does not like the spotlight. That only served to partier the waters worse. Peyton, on the other hand, perceived the silence as manipulation, what he described as weaponized quiet. To him, Dayton's non-talk wasn't about peace, it was about control. And in a family where all emotions are broadcast, you control. Christine, being the peacemaker that she is, apparently went private too. Dayton's not the problem, she reportedly said to Janelle. He's shielding Robyn at his own expense, in a way that hurts him more than anyone realizes. Yet, a change happened in the atmosphere. Peyton's fans started posting side-by-side clips, one of him ranting on TikTok, the other of Dayton's quiet in past Sister Wives episodes. Supporters theorized perhaps Dayton's silence wasn't obedience. Perhaps it was his subtle defiance of both his mother and his father. No one expected it. By late summer, arguments were raging online. Was Dayton attempting to reveal something regarding the family's money? Was his silence covering up someone from the consequences of Coyote Pass? Even some Reddit commenters alleged that the post suggested economic tension between Robyn and her adult son, possibly related to the trust funds or inheritance division. No one was certain, but this much was certain: Robyn's ideal vision of a harmonious home had broken. Dayton's enigmatic post became an emblem of all the secrets behind the scenes of the Brown dynasty. But then, one missed word in a TLC interview made the silence into a confession, and fans caught it in real time. In a quick family Q&A session taped for TLC's website, Robyn batted around a question concerning communication with family members. "We talk all the time," She laughed with a quick glance at Dayton, sitting next to her. Viewers caught something, however, Dayton's face, a little smile not really reaching his eyes. Then, he nodded. Once. That one nod, captured in a 10-second video clip, was enough to ignite weeks of viral chatter. Fans interpreted it as his quiet affirmation of what Pedon had been saying all along, that resentment, not peace, lay behind the silence. At that moment, the quiet sun rang out louder than all the rest. As the dust settled, one question reverberated on fan sites. If Dayton's silence is for protection, who precisely is he protecting? Because by session, Sitze, that response will tear open secrets no one was ready for. They believed the silence was guard, but when a whisper is a file, and that file becomes evidence, silence kills. This is the time when all the things Kody and Robyn tried to bury come crawling into the light. Leaked emails, secret accounts, and silent warnings reveal the truth about Dayton's allegiance, and the shocking manner in which his silence might have been manipulated for control of the Brown family's funds. Yael, kill. The secret wasn't what Dayton had said, it was what he had sent. By early autumn, the tempest over the Brown family was no longer a hearsay, sheer evidence. A few private messages, supposedly from Dayton's former college email address, appeared on fan forums. They were all normal stuff, reminders of tuition, news about school, but one message altered everything. It said, "Tired of being a name on things I don't get. If it's family property, I want out." The message, sent almost 2 years before the public spectacle started, sounded the alarm bells. Was Dayton entangled with the family's financial matrix in ways no one had contemplated? Fans dug deep. The timeline was suspiciously parallel with Robyn's real estate purchases near Coyote Pass. And although there was no concrete evidence that Dayton's name was on any formal records, the suggestion was enough to spark again all the questions beneath concerning the Brown finances. TLC executives were said to have panicked. Damage control started immediately. Within Urderseath hours, all reference to the leak had vanished from large sister wives' fan pages, but the screenshots were already viral. Steno's Nastable. The more they tried to cover up the emails, the more fans started to speculate, was Dayton the solution to solving the Brown family's largest financial secret? Kidas, within the Brown clan, tensions ran high. Pedon supposedly had a private confrontation with Robyn, charging her with using Dayton's name to hide her own assets. She refused to believe it, responding, "That's my son, you don't get to speak of him." But the harm was already complete. The story had moved from rumor to a true fiscal scandal. Christine and Janelle, having separated themselves from Kody's finances, what throws, remained quiet publicly, but insiders for them suggested that they weren't surprised. Christine even alluded on Cameo that some people are finally learning. What happens when you stop letting others speak for you? In the meantime, Dayton pulled back entirely. His web presence stopped, his Twitter and Facebook disappeared, and even Robyn ceased referring to him in interviews. For aficionados, that silence made the so-called confession sound louder. But just when it seemed over, another leak surfaced. And this time, it wasn't just an email. It was a document with Dayton's name on it. A Reddit thread called "Dayton's Name on the Deed" went viral overnight. It contained a blurred photo of a Arsene Ling Easterba property form. Where did it list? Coyote Pass. Whose signature did it bear? Dayton Brown. The skeptics called it a forgery, but the timing was too coincidental. Kody and Robyn had been working out tax details on the property at about the same time. And if indeed Dayton's name was on any piece of paper, then that might be what was frustrating him, and the enigmatic email he'd sent saying that he wanted out. Fans swamped social media with speculation. Some felt that Robyn had employed Dayton's name as a protective buffer, insulating herself legally from responsibilities related to the Coyote Pass property. Others suspected a simple clerical mistake. But one reality started taking root. Dayton wasn't quiet for being shy. He could have been quiet because he was trapped. Privately, family sources alleged Robyn was apoplectic, more so at the publicizing than the act itself. She supposedly summoned a private meeting with Kody, instructing TLC to remove any future shows featuring mention of Dayton. Kody, already financially squeezed, acquiesced. Payton would not remain silent. However, in a mysterious TikTok, he stated, "Cute, funny how silence works both ways. You can use it to protect or to hide. Depends who's benefiting." That line struck home. Fans recognized him before the media figured it out. The plot thickened into more than just family drama. It was about inheritance, possession, and trust. The picture of Robyn's ideal home vanished, replaced by the unsettling thought that her son was an unwitting participant in her schemes. And while TCL stayed quiet, the court of public opinion had already delivered its verdict. But the real explosion came next, not from an email or a leak, but from a voice memo Dayton never meant the world to hear. As session sends, one thing becomes irrefutable: Dayton's silence was never weakness. It was leverage, and in Session Woo, that leverage will topple everything Robyn built. What if silence spoke? And spoke up? For years, whispers, secret files, and unanswered questions had gathered. The truth, however, came not from a camera, a courtroom, or a confession. It came from Dayton himself, a voice recording, trembling, personal, and never intended for anyone outside of those who knew him intimately, ended up online, and in 60 seconds, it destroyed everything that Robyn and Kody had created. This is not another sister wives twist. This is the moment the silent son finally broke his silence, and his words didn't merely reveal secrets. They recast the family's entire narrative. "They used my silence. Now they'll hear it." Dayton Brown, the interview was brief, no more than 2 minutes, but each second felt like a sledgehammer. Dayton's hushed but shaking voice, disgust, control, pressure, and the burden of being the face of a story that wasn't mine. He described being instructed when to talk, when to smile, and when to vanish. "I didn't leave the show. I was pushed out. I no longer fit the narrative they required." The leak was not from a tabloid or fan. It was from an anonymous email sent to 3 large Sister Wives fan accounts. All received the same file with the simple title, "Listen." Within a few hours, it was everywhere: TikTok, Reddit, and even celebrity gossip sites. Robyn Brown's character as the mother shield broke down last night. She'd been depicted for years as the loving matriarch protecting her son from the viciousness of fame. But now the public were questioning a more sinister question: was she shielding him or shielding herself? For the first time, Dayton wasn't a mystery. He was a witness, and his words pointed straight at Robyn and Kody. In the memo, Dayton had said something regarding signing without understanding. That one sentence rekindled every conspiracy surrounding his name on financial records associated with Coyote Pass. "I was told it was family business, that it was about legacy. I didn't want to fight over it, but now I know better." The stakes were huge. If Dayton's signature was on official property documents while he was a student, it could mean he'd inadvertently been drawn into Kody and Robyn's property games, possibly getting him tied to debts, taxes, or ownership claims he never signed up for. TLC, in full crisis mode, issued a vague statement: "We do not comment on private family matters involving non-cast individuals." But viewers weren't having it. They posted comments all over Robyn's past interviews, insisting on explanations. "You told us he wanted to remain private," one complained, "but now we know why." In private, insiders close to the production called Kody seething and cornered. For years, he'd taken pride in control of the story, the money, and his family. Now, his own stepson had overturned all of that with one shaking recording. And then came the part of the memo that made even the die-hard fans hold their breath. Dayton's voice dipped toward the end. "They told me family means loyalty, but loyalty shouldn't cost your freedom. I love them, but I can't be silent for them anymore." That last sentence became a viral chant, posted thousands of times using the hashtag #Dayton'sTruth. The message was unmistakable. The boy who was once shy, quiet, and clingy had discovered his voice, and it was strong. Christine Brown, without naming names, put up a cryptic tweet on Instagram. Sometimes the quietest people are the strongest. Proud of anyone who stands up for themselves. Fans immediately made the connection. Well, in the meantime, Janelle was said to have confided in a close friend that, Dayton's bravery could finally get people to see what actually happened behind closed doors. Robyn herself disappeared from the public eye. No interviews, no tweets. Her last social media post was almost a week prior to the leak, smiling with Kody on their porch. Fans have dubbed it the last happy photo. By the end of that week, attorneys were reportedly in the mix. Family sources said Kody was considering legal action for unlawful distribution of private material. There wasn't much he could do, though. The file had already gone viral. The internet had claimed it, chopped it up, and made it immortal. And amidst all the craziness, one thing repeated louder than ever: if Dayton couldn't be managed anymore, what would Robyn do next? Now, because ultimately, the true silence didn't come out of Dayton. It came out of the people who previously said they were speaking on his behalf. While the world heard Dayton stammering, the Kody Brown's utopian family myth was demolished. The whispered truth of one son did what reality television had failed to do over years. It brought an end to the illusion of control. And now the fans who previously sympathized with Dayton no longer view him as a victim. They regard him as the single individual who at last severed the chain. Lalia.